Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, if you could wake up in the morning, look at yourself, and be proud of what you do, then it's a good day. Now, my guest today, RJ Burr, has stated just before this episode, that is something that he can do each and every day, in which I really value that in an individual. So, RJ, thank you for joining us for the show today.
Oh, Zach, it's great being here.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your experiences as you started in this industry of oil and gas specifically. Now, it was stated that you were on your first site before you could even walk. Is that correct?
Yep. It was one of those go to school with dad days. I was 7 years old, and I remember. Now we lived in Texas in the middle of Texas spring. Now it was hot. I mean, it was so hot, but he pulled me we went to Luling, Texas. And for anybody who's been to Luling, Texas, it has a unique smell to it. It smells like oil. And for somebody whose nose is not acclimated to what oil is, being quite frank, it stinks. It doesn't smell very good.
Sure.
And so we get out of the car, and I said, "Ooh, Dad, what's that smell?" He goes, "Oh, baby, that's money." And so we load up, go out to the field. And when I saw those pump jacks, the horses that go up and down, when I saw pump jacks lined across the horizon, I was enthralled. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do at that moment, and I've never wavered from it. Graduated high school, made my first sale 3 months out of high school, and haven't looked back. This is really all I've ever done.
Okay. So it was something that you became attracted to early on in your childhood and then continued with right out of high school and just continued to push into and push forward with.
It's in my family. I mean, this is my sons are of age now, and they're coming to work. I have two daughters in high school. My oldest boys, they're going to be the fourth generation of Burr oil men. And, my grandpa did it. My uncles did it. My dad did it. I do it. My brother does it. My cousins do it. I mean, this is all we ever know. We've been making our living in the oil patch since cars became dominant.
Yeah. No, I mean, let me ask you a question in regards to that. You mentioned cars. That's what a lot of people think about is just cars and oil. But it's my understanding that's not the only products that oil is used for. Tell me a little bit about where else oil is used.
I would be willing to bet that you could walk to any city in America and randomly grab one person in that city, and they'll have at least two products of oil on them and have no idea. From all of the plastics to medicine to cosmetics to sports equipment to computers there are literally 6,000 products that can be made from one barrel of oil. And anytime you hear poly, it's oil. And so if you went in fact, we did a little movie here. It was about a year ago. It was 2 Christmases ago. I'm up here right before Christmas, about 6 in the morning, and making a cup of coffee, just kind of planning out the end of the year. And I've been doing this my whole life, and I'd never done this. And when I'm sitting there, and I'm one of those guys that I like some coffee with my sugar, and so I'm sitting there stirring my coffee, and I'm looking around the kitchen, and hey, that was made from oil. That was made from oil. That was made from oil. And I started just counting out all the things in the kitchen that had an oil component to it. And I was blown away. And by the time I got back to my desk, it hit me. It was like, hang on, Jay, you've been doing this your whole life. And if it blew you away, how many people have no idea? Right. And so at that point, we created a movie called, it was originally going to be titled A Day Without Oil. However, that would have been way too long. And so we just shortened it down to A Morning Without Oil. And we show a modern couple wake up, the alarm goes off, they wake up, and I'm kind of narrating it. And my whole point behind it was, hey, look, we're going to act like a day without oil. And so when they get up, I say, no, remember, it's a day without oil. We got to start over. And so they rewind, they get back in bed, and all the products that are made from oil disappear. And we follow them from their bedroom to their bathroom to the kitchen before they leave. And it's been a tremendous response. It really has, because people are blown away. They don't realize that, oil built the modern world. I don't want to sound like a braggart. I don't want to sound like I'm in the most important industry in the history of man, but I'm in the most important industry in the history of man. Sure. Without oil, no modern world exists. Yeah. And
is that video accessible? If somebody wanted to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Panex.us/learn. That's the best place to go. We set that website up specifically for individuals that have never looked at oil and gas before.
Okay.
I know that I make my living dealing with individuals every day. My investing partners, I have some guys that have been with me for 25 years. And the reason is not because we won every time. This is oil and gas. If anybody tells you it's guaranteed, they're lying to you. It's because we deal with you heads up. It is what it is. If it's black, it's black. If it's white, it's white. There is no gray. Gray is where you get in trouble. And so we put that page together. Our Oil and Gas 101 on that page just gives you the basic ideas of oil, how we look for oil, what products oil are used for. That way you just have a general idea about the industry, because we are all in the oil business. Whether you want to be or not, you're paying for it. And so you need to, if you're going to pay for it anyway, you need to educate yourself on it. So once you see Oil and Gas 101, you see what the industry is. Oil and Gas 102 shows you the tax benefits. I believe they're the greatest tax benefits out there. They're above line deductions. You put $100,000 in an oil deal. Now, I'm not a CPA. Don't set me in stone. I can give you a general rule of thumb. But you put $100,000 in an oil deal, Uncle Sam's going to pay for roughly $35,000 of it. What that means to you on taxes, you owe Uncle Sam $100,000 in taxes. All of a sudden, you owe him $65,000 in taxes. Not a bad deal. Now, if we're good at what we do and we can actually produce money and make you revenue, well, you got the cat by the tail. And we're pretty good at what we do.
Yeah. Okay. You've been doing this a long time. Fourth generation is your sons, as you said, sons and daughters. They'll be the fourth generation. Okay. So talk about the kind of the growth over time across the Burr Oil and Burr Oil men that have been involved in this. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, it started out, my mom's dad, Paul Rustin. He lived 96 years old. I mean, he was a stud, just Jeff Rustin. In fact, my full name is Robert Jeffrey Rustin Burr. And he was a company man. He was the guy out in the field making sure all the wells worked right. Now, my mom was kind of one of those unique kids. She was a baby boomer.
Yeah.
However, her two older brothers, one is 21 years older than her and one is 26 years older than her. And so she essentially had three dads. And my Uncle Bobby, my Uncle John were their oil men. Their children were oil men. Then my dad got in the business in 1973. And I was born 2 years later. And like I said, this is just the evolution of the Burr family and drilling in the oil patch. Now, where most people, and this is in doing as many shows as I've done and talking to as many people as I have, one of the biggest surprising things that I've come to realize is most people have no idea what the American oil industry truly is. You know, most people have these visions of what they think American oil is. They think of J.R. Ewing. They think of, they have these visions of these massive conglomerates, when in truth, 83% of your oil, 90% of your natural gas, and more than 90% of the wells drilled in America are drilled by roughly 9,000 companies, independent companies that average 12 employees or less.
Wow.
That's your American oil industry. And so when you look at competition, that's who, now don't get me wrong, there are some massive independent companies out there. There's some big boys. I'm not saying they're all little small tinkers. However, the vast majority of them are mom and pop companies. And so when you look at how you develop and how you build an American oil, well, most of our massive build your company overnight fields have already been discovered. Now they're probably going to find something down the road. I mean, like they did in the Balkan, like that, and they'll find something somewhere else that we didn't identify earlier. However, a lot of your proven oil fields, a lot of those fields are already developed. And so to build a major oil company, a company with 100 million market cap on American oil, is very hard to do. Just because there's really only two ways to do it. Either one, find it yourself. Well, as you and I just discussed, most of your major build your night over fields have been found. So that route's very difficult. Well, the second route is to buy it from somebody who already found it. Well, back before a couple of years ago, they knew what they had also. And so therefore, if you got it from them, you were going to pay a steep price. So either of those routes were very difficult. Well, then for lack of a better term, the war between Saudi Arabia, Russia, and American oil started. Whether you like President Trump or not is irrelevant. What he did, he changed the power structure in oil. For the last 70 some odd years, OPEC has really been the key player. OPEC set the prices. And all of a sudden, when we started producing as much oil as we did, all of a sudden OPEC didn't have near a say in what oil prices would be. They didn't like that. And so Saudi Arabia and Russia, they basically attacked our shale industry. Now, here we're sitting back, we're watching all this, and we know the dirty little secret that most people don't know. The shale industry, most of those companies need at least $50 a barrel to pay their bills. Everything above 50 is where they make the profit. Well, all of a sudden, if they can push that price to $40, $45 a barrel, there's going to be several people that are in trouble now. If you need 50 to pay your bills and you're getting 40, all of a sudden you're looking for a cosigner if that keeps going. Well, the dirty little secret is Russia and Saudi Arabia need $50 a barrel also. However, we were betting that they could last longer than the shale industry. And so really that's what we were gearing up for. And if you string together all the crises, the economic crisis in American history, if you just look at them, in every case, there's one or a group of people that come out of the other side looking like geniuses. And when you string their stories together, basically what you have is there's only two common characteristics they share. When the crash happened, one, they were liquid. They had cash in hand and they were able to make a move. But more importantly, I don't know if it was necessarily more important than being liquid, but it's pretty darn important. But secondly, when the opportunity presented itself, they had the courage to push their chips in the middle of the table and make a move. And so that's where we were sitting. Well, then all of a sudden COVID comes. And if anybody tells you they saw COVID coming, they're lying, because we didn't see it either. And all of a sudden, what COVID did, it didn't change what was going to happen. However, it took what we thought would take 12 to 18 months and crunched it down into 30 days. And that all culminated on April 20th, 2020, when the markets crashed. And the effect of that, and here's the most profound unreported story that I've ever heard about. The profound effect that day had on American oil that went unnoticed. Because if you went up to the average person and said, hey, how did prices dropping to negative 40 affect the oil industry? Their most likely reaction was, it's Exxon. It's Shell. They can handle it. When in fact they can. However, they're not the ones that were hitting this. It was those 9,000 independents. Because what it did, it created a buying opportunity like I haven't seen in my whole life. Because immediately on April 20th, the first thing that happened, boom, your younger companies, your companies are on shakier financial ground, they're out of business. Boom, door closed and sign in the window. Well, the next wave that got knocked out was a couple of months later when we sent everybody home for COVID. The companies that could pay their employees more and get them back to the field, they were the ones that made it. The companies that couldn't, a lot of them didn't. And so all of a sudden you had a clearing of the playing field that I've never seen it before. You know, all of a sudden you had properties that, I'll put it to you this way. On April 20th, 2020, we had two partnerships that were hurt pretty bad. I mean, we had two, and they were doing awesome. First two distributions, these partnerships had about 70% of their money back in their pocket. We were about to raise 40, 50 million. I mean, I've been there before. I've seen it when partnerships are running like that. So I knew it was coming. And then all of a sudden the market crashed. And it really hurt those partnerships. And so if anybody on the planet had the right to curl up in the fetal position and suck their thumb, it was us. I mean, we had a gut shot. Well, once we had that moment, I tell my kids, when you're in a ball game or you're doing something and something goes bad, something goes like you didn't want, you get one moment. You get one moment to say whatever you want to say. As they got older, they might have turned it into the F word, but you get one moment to say, Well, once that moment's over, then you drop it, you keep on going. Well, once we had our moment, we sat back, we looked, hey guys, this is what we thought was going to happen anyway. It came in a different form and it came a little faster. However, we're ready for it. And so when everybody else at that time pulled in their sails to try to ride out the storm, we opened ours wide open. And that was when we started making acquisitions. And from that day to this one, we made 24 different acquisitions around the Bayou Choctaw Salt Dome. It's actually the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We own the mineral rights around. We've secured what we believe to be about 100 million barrels of oil sitting in place. And all we're doing right now is we've been developing it for the last 3 years. hit 9 of the last 10 partnership wells we drilled out there. Several million barrels, start about 1,600 feet of total pay sands, about 45 different pay channels within each well. I mean,
Wow.
it's been
Yeah.
outstanding. It really has. And my partners, I couldn't be happier for them because, look, as I said earlier, we're all in the oil business. And I really did. I was conflicted here a couple of years ago because I saw everything going on. And I saw how, there were people hurting out there. Yet we were making a killing. We were doing well. And so it was one of those, I was like, man, do I feel right making this kind of money when so many people are hurting? And then it dawned on me, we're all in the oil business.
Right.
And so if I can give my partners a route to get that flow of revenue, because with everybody that lives in the modern world, your flow of revenue to oil is going out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm one of the few people that can actually get that flow turned around and coming back to you, I've done good for you and for everybody. And once that snapped in my head, and once I realized, by you winning for your partners, you're going to make the kind of money you're making. But you know what? You got to win for your partners. And so once I was okay with it, and I said, okay, no, we are doing the right thing. We put the pedal down and haven't looked back.
Yeah. So you're winning for others, but at the same time, you're winning for yourself too. And like you said, we're all in the oil industry. So, you do need to have that success continue and not be one of those places that shuts the door.
My ego is such that I want the biggest house, the biggest car, and the biggest dog. That's just how I'm made. For good or ill, that's how I'm made. Yeah. Well, I know the math. I'm an old jock. I had to figure out a way to keep score. Mm-hmm. And when I stopped playing ball, I that's what I had to do. How do I get my hugs? Yep. I got a hug every time I hit a home run. Give me high fives every time I threw somebody. I said, "Get up, great job!" And to score a touchdown, great. Well, once you don't have that anymore, how do you keep score? It's money. Sure. It's money. That's how you keep score. Yep. And the way I make the most money I can make is by making my partners the most money I can make them.
Right.
If I win for them, I'm going to win.
Yes.
And so it's truly that simple. We try to be the sharpest knife in the drawer. And, we were talking earlier about the talking heads trying to reinvent ways to say the same old things. No, right. I'm a KISS rule guy. Keep it simple, stupid. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. And if anybody ever tells you it equals 3, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. We keep our head down, our tail up, and we keep plowing, and corn will start growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are your thoughts on, people or companies that just randomly cold call? I've got to be honest, this happened to me. Somebody called up directly to me and said, "Hey, we want to have you invest in oil." And I have no knowledge of oil, don't know where they come from. Do you run into that much, or do you encounter those kind of situations?
That's how I made my living. My first day in the office, see, back when I started in oil, my dad at that point in time wore every hat in the business. Yep. And we knew that for an oil company to be maximum efficiency, it's too much for one guy to do. And so we broke the company up when we got there into 2 different sides. One is the financial fundraising and the operations side. And the other side is the field and the geological side.
Okay.
If you can't raise your funds, you're always at the mercy of somebody else who can. Well, in the same breath, if you can't find oil and produce it efficiently, you're always at the mercy of somebody else who can. Yep. And so my first day in the office, my dad sat me down at a desk, put a big old phone book in front of me, set a phone down, handed me a script and said, "Have fun." And I was smiling down. I did it every day. $400 a day keeps the doctor away. I think my most dials I made, these are not, no auto dials. These are hand. Right. I think the most dials I made in one day was almost like 1,600 dials. And, that's just how now the world's changed. Yep. With caller ID, with everything. We don't really have the power of invasion anymore. And so I can't remember the last time I made a cold call just because people don't answer. And so you had to figure out a new way to generate leads. And I found the easiest way for us to generate leads is to educate people.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you I'm the best in the business. All I have to do is educate you, and you'll come want to find out what I'm doing. Yes. And then if I'm worthy of you putting money with, you will. Yep. But I have to be able to answer all your questions. You have to. Well, we laugh because I told my dad, I said, one day you're going to end up writing a book, and we call it the 3 factors because it's what we preach. Without the 3 factors, there is no business. All 3 factors must be positive. And if there's a negative on any one of them, me and any potential investor, we won't do business.
Okay.
Of the three factors, the first factor is the buyer's responsibility. Second two are my responsibility. The factor that is theirs is the money. I can't tell anyone how much you have. I can't tell you how much you can invest. Our programs are 506C. All partners must be accredited. We do third-party verification. Well, once I know that you fit in that category, I'll put a positive next to it and I won't worry about it again. However, if you're not in that category, then we've already can't do business just by the laws of how we structure our programs.
Right.
So that's the first factor. Once that factor is positive, now it rests squarely on me. The first factor that is mine, that is by far the most important. Who are we? RJ Burr, Panex, Burr. Why are we the kind of people you want to do business with? You know, are we the kind of people that you would be proud to know we're working for you? Do you get that warm, fuzzy feeling in your stomach when you're talking to us? Well, if the answer is no to that, go do business with somebody else.
Yep.
Life's too short to do business with people that you don't gear up with. Now, once you see that we're the kind of people you want on your team, at that point, we'll discuss what we can do financially. Yep. Because really, if you don't see that I'm the kind of guy you should listen to, it's irrelevant what I tell you I can do financially. Now, once you see that I'm somebody you want on your team, well, now I'll show you what we can do, and you can believe what I say. And we have track records to back it up. We have testimonials. I mean, that's this is your money we're talking about. And so we have to make sure that you are completely 100% comfortable with who we are, what we're doing. And what I tell my guys is, look, there's only two guarantees I give you. One, if you call me and by chance I don't answer, I will call you back before I go to bed that night.
Yep.
And two, if you ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, I'll find it for you. Other than that, we're in oil and gas. I can't guarantee anything else. Now, I can show you what I think will happen. I can show you what we've done in the past. I can show you why these indicators tell us that it should work again. However, we're taking a drill bit and we're going several thousand feet down. Only the good Lord above knows exactly what's down there. Sure. And so really what we do is, I'd love to say it's more complicated. We stand on the shoulders of giants and get what they left behind. Yeah. We love salt domes. Salt domes were your original oil formations. Back in the Wild West days of oil, your salt domes were the first formations your geologists could identify. Well, think of the technology they were using 100 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. And so we go into these proven areas and really, take the Choctaw. You have the Choctaw field. They've drilled more than 250 wells in this field over the last 100 years. Well, we have the logs, which is basically you run a tool down the hole after you drill it, and it tells you what you have in your well. We have a log on the majority of these wells. And so we're sitting there going through these logs, and you can build a profile. I mean, you can look at all these wells. Well, this one had 7 different pay sands. This one had 4. And you can build a profile for what your field should look like. Well, each one of these wells had multiple stacked pay sands, produce anywhere from 500,000 to 1.5 million barrels of oil. And then all of a sudden you'd see a log, beautiful layered pay sands. This well should have 500,000 to 1.5 million barrels of oil in it. And then all of a sudden you look at the production records and there's 50,000 barrels. I wonder why. And so you keep on going, and then you see another one. And you see another one. And in the end, we had more than 40 of these wells where we had beautiful logs and no production. Well, so we go back and we're like, I wonder why they didn't produce these wells. Well, when you go through the history of it, it really turned out there were 2 reasons: greed and sand. When they hit these wells, they wanted to beat their competition. So they wanted to produce these wells at higher rates as they could. Well, think of these wells. Imagine having a big gulp in front of you, big Coke with crushed up ice. Well, if you wanted to drink that Coke without getting any ice in your mouth, you'd have to block it with your teeth or your lips. You'd have to gently drink that Coke and not get that ice in. That's how you have to produce these wells. These guys did the exact opposite. They basically opened their mouth and they poured the drink in and got ice, Coke, whatever's in that cup they were drinking. Well, when they turn these wells up and produce them like that, yes, they're going to get a lot of oil. They're going to get a lot of that Coke. However, these wells produce sand as well. So when they turn it wide open, all of a sudden they turn a beautiful looking well into a 3,000-foot column of cement. And instead of going back through and reopening the wells and trying, they just walk away. And so we essentially have a treasure map with X's marked and with an arrow, and somebody's actually already gone down and dug out a scoop of that gold and set it there on surface and said, look, we know there's gold here because we just got it out. We just couldn't dig the whole thing out.
Yep.
And so that's what we do. We
Yep.
go and we offset. To date, we've offset 5 of those wells. We've hit all 5 of them.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I'd love to say my ego would love to say we created the greatest thing since sliced bread. But no, man, we just go back and we get what they left behind. And it's quite valuable.
Absolutely. Now, best resource for individuals who are interested in learning more. You already said it once. Say that website again.
It is panex.us/learn.
Okay.
Or heck, you can email me directly, RJ Burr at panex.us.
Okay,
I talk to everybody. You're not going to offend me I tell my guys, if the little hair on your pinky toe has a question and you don't ask it, shame on you. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, right. Love that. So, one question I want to ask you that I like to ask all of my guests: if you were to be handed $1 million today, no strings attached, how would you invest that in your business or another endeavor?
Oh, I'd go buy more oil reserves.
Okay.
Look, man, we're not getting off of oil.
Yep.
We discussed that earlier, and I won't go down the rabbit hole on the whole climate change argument, but I will address alternative energy. Just don't take Jay Burr's word for it. You can go do your own research. Right now, there is nothing on the market that can economically or feasibly replace oil. Yeah. And it just and I kind of look at environmentalists, and the one question I put to them: if your stated goal is to save the world, yet to do that we have to destroy the world first, you're not a serious person, and I won't engage with you. Because that's what their solutions tell us they want to do. Is these lithium batteries? Man, get on the internet, type in oil field and hit images, and then open up another window and type in lithium mine and hit images, and you tell me which one's destroying the earth. It's a bunch of bull. And so when the ether wears off and everybody comes out from under the cloud and they realize that oil's not going there, I mean, think about it. 50% of the world population consumes roughly 83%, or 17% of the world's population consumes 50% of the oil.
Okay.
83% of the world's population is just now beginning to use oil. What do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to go, oh, hey, Greta Thunberg is afraid I'm destroying the environment, so I'm going to go back and live in the Stone Age? Or do you think they're going to use more of it and say, Greta, you know what? You can guess it. No, of course, human nature, you want better. You want to improve your lives. You want to improve your children's lives. You want to improve. Well, how does that happen if you're burning twigs for energy? It doesn't. It doesn't. And don't get on solar. Don't get on wind. No, they're inefficient. We can sit down and argue that all you want, but the math doesn't add up. Remember, 1 + 1 will always equal 2. Your environmentalists are telling you it's equaling 3, and then saying, believe me or else. Well, you know what? I don't believe you. And while you keep pushing that and you keep running people into the ground and you keep costing people money, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep buying oil, because when your illusion busts, the people sitting on the oil are going to be sitting in a position of strength. And we want to be sitting on millions of it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, Jay Burr, for joining us today. 3rd generation oil, soon to be 4th generation with his kids involved, and a person of great integrity, great conviction. A man stands behind his word. And not only does he have that strong conviction, but also does the work to back it up. So definitely encourage people to look at their site, panex.us/learn, and make sure you get educated yourself. But like you said, if you have questions, reach out to him direct. He will answer you. He wants to make sure. So thank you again, Jay. Appreciate for your time today, and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
It was wonderful. It was